Welcome to R&R Live and Life, Part 8 of our Western Queensland trip. The following is a collection of photographs to show our family and friends what we have seen, what the country was like, and hopefully show some of the distances we have travelled. In this episode, we leave Boulia and make our way past Hamilton Hotel ruins, Middleton, Cornpaw Lookout, across the Diamantina Channels and on to Winton. We spend a couple of days in Winton. We then drive out to Lark Quarry to view the Dinosaur stampede and spend the afternoon enjoying the atmosphere of Winton Festival before moving on. This leg of our journey begins with an early morning start, leaving the caravan park on the banks of the Burke River in Boulia and travelling along the Kennedy Developmental Road towards Winton in the east, head on into the rising sun. Most of the morning we were travelling through large properties carrying either both sheep or cattle. The vast, seemingly endless country was full of surprises. On either side of the road were open flats covered with feed, with livestock in top condition, and I was constantly amazed by the variety and vastness of the ever-changing terrain and vegetation along the route. In the early days of European settlement in the district, stock and bullock wagons cut out the first roads between pastoral runs and fledgling townships. The wide streets of both Winton and Boulia are a testament to this. This area is known for the Min lights that are reportedly seen by travellers. Though they have never been substantiated, many people believe that they do exist. Our first stop was at the Hamilton Hotel ruins about 75 kilometres from Boulia. The hotel, which was burnt down in the early 1900s and was one of several hotels on this road during the heyday of Cobb and Co, being the second last staging post on the trip from Winton to Boulia, that was an overnight stopover for the coach drivers and passengers. I was interested in the cattle that were coming into water at the dam beside the George and Gladys Haystead rest area. George and Gladys Haystead ran the Hamilton Hotel for many years. The hotel was opened in 1897 and quickly gained a good reputation, offering meals and accommodation of a high standard. After the Hamilton Hotel closed in the 1980s, the building and its fittings were sold and removed from the site. All that remains today is the brick fireplace. Two graves, one on the old dam wall and the second further on, are of Gladys Haystead and her son Charles, who died aged 7 years 9 months, and are a reminder of the harsh conditions people from this area live in. Beside the roadside, a cane marked the official opening of the final sealing of the Winton-Boulia Road in 1996. On leaving the Hamilton Hotel ruins, we crossed the Hamilton River channels, a series of dry, furrowed watercourses that form the Hamilton River, one of the rivers of the Channel Country. The bitumen road continued straight across the channels, making for quite an undulating section of road. As the day was heating up, Rick and I marvelled at how different our trip was compared to those passengers travelling on Cobb and Co coaches with window flaps that attempted to keep the dust and heat out, and how hard it would have been crossing in and out of the many channels during and after floods. We passed a sign that marked where the Min Hotel once stood, about 500 metres off the road on a flat, treeless plain. There is nothing left of the Min Hotel apart from its legendary graveyard, reportedly to be the site of the first sighting of the mysterious Min lights. The hotel burnt down in 1924. Interestingly enough, the licensee at the time was a Mrs. Haystead, the mother of George Haystead, who ran the Hamilton Hotel. On leaving the Boulia Shire, we encountered the Lilyvale Hills. The road winds its way through the stunningly beautiful and rugged landscape to the Cornpaw Lookout, the highest point along the route, where we had stunning bird's-eye views of the surrounding area. We certainly gave our legs a workout with a steep walk to the top of Cornpaw Lookout with its incredible views. The broad flat-top hills or mesas and rocky mounds that comprise the Lilyvale Hills are remnants of the Cretaceous period, when a large inland sea covered large parts of Queensland and inland Australia. The mesas, or jump-ups, as they are colloquially called, are capped with unusually hard sedimentary rocks that have resisted erosion and protected the softer rock beneath. The landscape was again changing as we neared the Middleton Hotel, Queensland's most isolated pub, built in 1876 during the Cobb and Co era and served as one of the changing stations for horses. The Lilyvale Hills had faded into the distance, and the scenery became mostly treeless, mitchell grass plains. On nearing Middleton, the road narrowed as we passed over a series of undulating channels, and Middleton appeared on the top of the rise. Middleton was proclaimed a town in 1908. In its heyday, the town boasted a police station, school, store, hotel, post office, hall, market garden, and several carrying and droving camps. All that remains of Middleton is the hotel, while across the road is the Hilton Hotel camping area. There was no petrol to be had, and we had come prepared, but we did stop for a cold one and a chat with the on-site manager as the licensees were off for a break. What a place to stop, even if only to stretch the legs and have a look around. There are some wonderful examples of petrified wood at the front of the hotel. The Middleton Hotel was built about a decade before private coach operators and Cobb and Co provided passengers and mail services between Winton and Boulia. An enterprising carrier named Wiggins built a hotel near the junction of the Middleton and Seville Creeks and called it the Middleton in 1876. A cane and plaque near Middleton's old hall honours McKinley and his party who passed through the area in 1862 in search of the lost expedition of Burke and Wills. Explorer John McKinley named Middleton Creek after his second in charge, Thomas Middleton. We passed the remains of the Goldstone movie shed, the last remains of the set for the movie Goldstone that was filmed in the area. Producers built the set about 170 kilometres west of Winton, thinking that the local landscape would make a perfect backdrop for the contemporary Western film Goldstone. That was a follow-up to the 2013 movie Mystery Road. We stopped again at Potty Creek Rest Area to have a break from travelling and to stretch our legs. The rest area offered great views of the Diamantina River floodplains. Though a bit windy, the views were spectacular, with Castle Hill Station towards Winton in the east. As always, I had to take photographs of flowers, and this time it was the scaggy erect shrub, the Sturt's Desert Rose, that grew naturally in sandy or gravelly soils. The beautiful five-petalled pale pink flower had a dark red spot at the base. Later in Winton, I took photographs of another native flower to the Winton area, the pink mulla mulla. This beautiful mauve-pink flower spikes are feathery, conical to cylindrical, and about 15 centimetres long. The Diamantina Causeway is part of the Channel Country and a part of a 1.3 million square kilometre region of southwestern Queensland. The name derived from a network of riverbeds and streams coursing through the relatively flat terrain with erodible soils composed mostly of clay. The weather patterns in this part of Queensland are highly variable and very seasonable, and when the rain does come, it is intermittent and often heavy, so the streams and creeks flow only in short bursts followed by long periods of drought. Some of the permanent waterholes are key elements of the ecosystem and are critical to the survival of a rich diversity of native wildlife and also supports the grazing industry. There are more than 50 ecosystems, including Coolabah woodlands, sand plains, and vast dune fields, all adapted to infrequent rainfall, massive deluges, and a parching evaporation rate. The gentle gradient of the topography means that floodwaters slow down, spread out, and break up into hundreds of small channels, sometimes overflowing and covering the surrounding landscape. The Channel Country is truly an amazing part of Queensland. In the 1870s and 1880s, many private groups and individuals promoted the concept of a transcontinental railway line across Western Queensland to the Gulf of Carpentaria. The first 30 kilometres or so of the Outback Way lie over the original foundations of the railway line. In 1881, an expedition sponsored by the Queensland newspaper and led by a railway engineer, Robert Watson, set out from Roma. A Scottish-born financier and later the Premier of Queensland proposed to fund the railway on a land grant principle, but was unsuccessful. The railway schemes lay dormant for some time, but in the 1910 plans for the construction of a transcontinental railway from Bourke to Camberwell were revisited and a connecting spur from Winton to Springvale via Eddersley was approved in 1913. The townships of Nulluka was set up on the two-chain road for the first railway station, which is now approximately 60 kilometres from Winton. Rusting railway lines, an old bridge and a telegraph pole dating from 1914 verified to an initial stage built from Winton to Elderslie. However, the lack of population in the far wester dampened enthusiasm for the massive investment, and the grand plans for a transcontinental railway line were never realised. Work came to an end in 1916 and the line was never completed. The old railway lines and sleepers were pulled up during the Depression and used for a variety of projects including yard building and shoring up artesian wells when the water levels dropped. We meet up with the Landsborough Highway from Quinuna just short of Winton. We were lucky enough to get a van site at the Winton Wanderers Caravan Park as the Winton Festival was on. What a weekend to arrive in a town, especially as it depends on tourism to support the economy of the region. Winton promotes itself as the place where Banjo Paterson's Waltzing Matilda was first performed, is the birthplace of Qantas and the dinosaur capital of Australia. All the caravan parks and the showground in town were fully booked out. The Winton Wanderers Caravan Park is only a new park in town, with some of the amenities only having just been completed, ready for this weekend. In 1876, Winton was known as Wallace's Camp or Pelican Waterhole. Robert Allen built a hotel on the Western River in 1876, but after being flooded out, he relocated his hotel and store to Winton's present site, and in 1879 Winton was gazetted as a town. In 1892, Cobb & Co. secured its first contract for a weekly service between Boulia and Winton and continued to provide the Winton-Boulia passenger and mail service until December 1912. From January 1913, when the mail service between Middleton and Boulia ceased, as it was considered unprofitable, Cobb & Co. coaches no longer travelled to Boulia. However, Cobb & Co.'s passengers and mail service between Winton and Middleton continued for a few more years. The following day we took the Winton-Junda Road to Lark Quarry. On arrival to the site, we began the morning by taking the Spinifex Circuit self-guided tour around the Dinosaur Stampede Monument. The outlook offers spectacular views of the rolling Mitchellgrass Downs, framed by the characteristic red earth jump-ups. We then took a tour through the exhibit where we experienced the only known dinosaur stampede on the planet. We saw over 3,300 dinosaur footprints scattered over the rock face and discovered the history of the trackways and how fragile they are. On arriving back in Winton, we spent the afternoon visiting the sites of this outback town, from the Wallymar's fruit and veggie hut, Arno's Wall, the musical fence, the birthplace of Qantas, took a photograph under the Winton sign, and spent the time wandering through the festival that was in progress. We also visited the Waltzing Matilda Centre, certainly well worth the visit. We really enjoyed our visit to Winton as there was so much to see and do in and around the town. We left Winton early so that we could stop in at the Australian Age of Dinosaurs Museum of Natural History and home to the world's largest collection of Australian largest dinosaur fossils. This museum is located on 1,801.7 hectares of rugged mesa plateau or jump ups and is approximately 270 metres above sea level. The plateau stands 75 metres above the surrounding land and forms part of a mesa formation called the Vindex Range. The jump up is part of the Winton Formation, which is dated around 95 million years old. As the cap rock surface of the jump up is solid rock, it has resisted erosion throughout a period of deep weathering that has eroded the surrounding countryside. It is interesting to think that paleontologists have been able to interpret what occurred over millions of years ago. Today we visited the Australian Age of Dinosaurs Museum, located on the top of a large mesa named the Jump Up, which is 24 kilometres southeast of Winton. While at the Age of Dinosaurs, we visited the Fossil Preparation Laboratory, the collection room housing the museum's haliotype and paratype fossil specimens, with the haliotype fossil bones being of Australia's most complete sauropod dinosaurs. We also visited the Dinosaur Canyon outpost and outdoor galleries perched on the cliff overlooking Dinosaur Canyon, where we viewed 5 outdoor galleries positioned along a pathway resembling a treetop walk and winds its way through massive boulders and thick vegetation below the rim of a gorge, recreating life as it would have appeared during the Cretaceous period. The museum has accumulated the largest collection of Australian dinosaur fossils in the world. Not many dinosaurs are known from the Mesozoic era of Australia. In fact, only 25 have proper scientific names based on fossil material. Even though dinosaurs first evolved in the Triassic period, no dinosaur bones of this age have ever been found in Australia. The Mesozoic era includes 3 periods: the Triassic, the Jurassic, and the Cretaceous, the longest of the 3 periods extending 80 million years, when the dinosaurs and many other animals and plants became extinct. From the top of the jump up at the age of dinosaurs, we could see kilometres of Mitchell grass plains dotted with mulga stands. It was such an impressive view. We could just make out Winton on the horizon. Mitchell grass is a common and extremely important group of grasses found primarily on heavy textured clay soils of the North Australian pastoral country. It is the mainstay of beef production from central western Queensland through to the Barkly tablelands. Unlike spinifex, Mitchell grass is a perennial tussock grass, as are most of the other agriculturally important grasses. The surrounding mulga forest is a habitat of grey kangaroos and wallaroos. The mulga is considered to be the most important fodder tree in Australia, not because it is the most nutritious, but because it is so widespread and palatable. We will leave you for this episode at the Australian Age of Dinosaurs. I hope you have enjoyed this episode. Join us next episode as we continue along the highway to Longreach. Take care, stay safe. Cheers for now, Rick and Rosemary. R&R Living Life.